How's it going, everyone? Corey Anderson here with New Thought Millennia, and we are making this video to document our progress. I don't remember the last time I did this video. It's probably been about 5 days, if even, probably been longer. You know, those times where you get so absorbed in doing the things that you're doing that you don't even notice how much time actually goes by. And right now it is Saturday, March 5th, 12:23 a.m. in the morning, and we were in the middle excuse me, and we were in the middle of editing chapter 1 from the Message of New Thought, and I wanted to actually make this video when I had gotten home. But you know, Friday night, Saturday midnight, helicopters are out, people are racing down the street. We live across the street from a public park, so you know, people like to race down the streets of public parks. And being Friday night, people out just getting together, doing their thing, and you know, we're here working on our dream and working on ourselves and becoming the person that we desire to be. And you know, it's been a long week, and right now we're in the middle of disc 8 of Your Wish is Your Command by Kevin Trudeau. Now, in Your Wish is Your Command, a program put out by Kevin Trudeau. Kevin Trudeau is a multi-millionaire, most likely even a billionaire. He runs corporations all around the globe, and he talks about how our brain vibrates in accordance to what our mind is thinking. You know, we have our conscious and subconscious mind, and our brain and cerebral spinal is the organ of the conscious mind. So whatever we consciously think in mental pictures that we create in our mind, our brain responds to that by vibrating that into the universal mind, right? Because everything is this so-called empty space that we know now is not really empty space. Philosophies and religions talk about it, how this field, we all live, move, and have our being inside a field of energy. Now, Kevin Trudeau doesn't exactly say these things. I'm putting together a conglomeration of information that I know from all these self-development books that I've read. But it's attached, this information is attached to what Kevin Trudeau is talking about, since whatever thoughts we think and whatever we are vibrating out into the universal mind, that the substance of God, the spiritual intelligence which permeates all of space, is receptive to whatever it is that our brain is vibrating. And we know that, looking at quantum physics and the quantum model of reality, everything being made out of atoms, and Kevin does talk about this, that everything that we see in the material world is made out of atoms. This computer that I'm recording this on is made out of atoms. This phone that I have right here, it's made out of atoms. My Old Spice Captain deodorant, it's made out of atoms, and those atoms are in turn made of smaller particles such as protons, neutrons, and electrons. Now, the protons and neutrons exist inside the nucleus of the atom, while the electron exists outside the nucleus of the atom. We know the totality of the atom, the electron with the electron cloud. Now, the electron in the electron cloud, specifically the electron cloud, the electron revolves in and out of the electron cloud. Think of the electron cloud being the space that exists around the atom. Now, the electron cloud fills 99.94% of the atom, while the nucleus, the protons, and the protons and the neutrons that exist inside the nucleus only constitute 0.06% of space of the atom. So what that means is the majority of the atom and the majority of matter in all material things is 99.94% empty space. So the things that we see ultimately, it's well, they're electrical signals made out of these subatomic particles in the brain. Our brain is receiving the energy, and it's creating an image and imprinting that image upon our consciousness, and we see it as a specific thing. We see it as a material thing, even though it's not really material. It's energy, it's vibration. Now, what he goes to talking about, because he explains the law of attraction and how the biggest secret that is kept from the masses, it's not the law of attraction itself or per se, but the fact that you and I are vibrating, that the brain is responsible for creating that vibration and vibrating that into the universal mind. And he even goes and talks about DNA, and how DNA is, just like our brain is transmitting and receiving vibrations, so is the DNA of our body, our entire body. Now, there's something known as the phantom DNA experiment. Now, the phantom DNA experiment showed these scientists put a strand of DNA inside of a tube, and whatever particles of light, the photons that existed inside of that tube alongside the DNA, the photons literally structured themselves as the same structure of the strand of DNA in that tube. And when the scientists pulled the DNA out of the tube, the photons that were inside the tube still existed as the structure of the DNA. That's why it's called the phantom DNA. That even when the scientists removed the DNA strand from the tube, the photons that existed inside the DNA or inside the tube still were structured the exact same as the DNA. Now, what that shows us is that our DNA, our body, being a transmitter and receiver of vibration, whatever photons along with the electrons, we know that through the double slit experiment, the electron literally forms its shape and shapes itself in accordance to what the observer is observing, to what you and I are observing something to be. Because we know that these electrons, being a subatomic particle and existing outside of the nucleus of an atom, permeates all of space. And same with the photon. The photon, being a particle of light, the photon also exists as, from the wave-particle duality, a probability wave and an actual particle. And the photon being a gauge boson, which we learned through, the particle, which we learned through particle physics. The photon is what carries along vibration through the ether. Oh, I can't wait till I have my presentation done in all this science back and all this stuff, because then I'll have more of a structure to explain everything that I'm trying to explain now at the top of my head from what I've been studying and researching with the power of our mind and our ability through our to transmit whatever vibration and receive vibrations, not only through the brain and conscious mind, but our emotional body as well, our emotional mind. Because we know the emotions being the seat of the subconscious mind. It exists in the ganglionic mass at the back of the stomach, known as through our solar plexus. And our solar plexus is found to be radiating most of the energy of the body, that even the conscious mind is dependent upon the energy and radiation of what in the functions of the solar plexus. And when we look at our successful books, In the books that we read on personal development of success, they talk about getting emotionally involved in the idea that you have, that you formulate the picture of what you want. First, you get crystal clear about what it is that you want. Then you write it down. You get crystal clear about it. You have to detail it in the best possible way that you can. You must have a clear vision in the conscious mind. And then you must get emotional about it. You must get emotionally involved in that image, in that idea. Now, the reason is because since your brain is transmitting a frequency of what it is that you want, and when you get your emotions involved, which the emotions are picked up by the DNA of your body, you're literally on the quantum level, and looking at quantum physics and how everything is subatomic in nature and electromagnetic in nature, that oh man, when you get emotionally involved, you're literally not only absorbing the photons that exist in the ether, and these photons are forming and shaping themselves to the nature of what your DNA is vibrating, and those photons then get shot out into the universal mind, and whatever other vibration that is equal, whatever energy and frequency that is on the same level of what it is that you're vibrating, you're gonna get it. You're gonna attract it to you. You're gonna manifest it. It's gonna appear as an experience in your life. Now, here's an example of how this works. I know for a fact that you, viewer, you've thought of something or someone before, and you ended up running into that person. This actually literally happened to me today. One of my old buddies, Richie, somebody I knew from high school, and it's already been about a decade. And I ran into him today, and I told him, like, dude, this is the law. This is the law of attraction. I was literally thinking about you the other day. Like, you crossed my mind because I drove by his house. You know, I went to the 7-Eleven, a convenience store, got something I wanted, was driving to my house, then passed his house, and I was thinking about him, wondering if he was okay. And then today, while I was working, I was delivering an order for a client, and he called out to me. I didn't even know it was him. I didn't even recognize him. And I looked over, and I was looking right at him, not recognizing him. It was a group of people. And I just looked back forward and kept walking because I was working. I had a delivery. And then I turn around and he comes walking in, and it was Richie. And that's the law. That's the law of attraction, because I literally, with my mind, I thought about him due to the electromagnetic nature of everything and the wave particle duality, because everything is in vibration. I entered into this state of vibration in the universe. However it does, whatever it does, created a situation and circumstance to where I ended up running into this person. Now, it's amazing. It's amazing that happens. And I know, viewer, that has happened to you at some point in your life. Or even you thought of somebody and they ended up calling you either that same day or the next day. You know, or here's another example. I know that you were with somebody and you ended up saying something, or they ended up saying something. And then either one of you was like, hey, I was just thinking that. Because your minds are connected. You're vibrating on that same field, on that same energy. And because of that has a lot to do with being together. You know, the closer you are to somebody, obviously, the more your energies will meld. But the farther you are away, there's a lot of interference happening. There's a lot of interference patterns between, say, if you're at point A, this person is at point B, 3-4 miles apart. There's a lot of vibrations and frequencies happening within that field, within that distance. So it's just, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal knowing that we're all co-creators, the universal mind, and whatever thoughts that we put out into the universe, those thoughts, that vibration, the universe will take, and it'll match with other like vibrations. And it'll create a situation and circumstance that will bring that into manifestation. That is a very powerful thing. And where I'm at right now in Disc 8, Trudeau is talking about the health of the body, because we always need to be feeling good. We always need to be in gratitude. We always need to be thinking and feeling good, because since everything is vibration, when we think good and we feel good, we are setting positive causes in motion, and positive effects will happen to us. Oh, excuse me. Now, does this mean that everything that we experience is going to be a quote-unquote positive thing? Yes and no, because sometimes things do happen to us that isn't a pleasant experience, but yet further down the line we see how that experience needed to happen to us, because this good thing that happened just happened. And that all goes into alignment with what happened to me today, and how I ran into an old friend that I had just was thinking about prior. You know, I had no idea that I was going to run into him, but that ended up happening. And whatever circumstances or challenges that I had during that time was a challenge that I needed to have, because if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have ran into him. You know what I'm saying? Like, things are just moving around and patterning themselves as it's supposed to be. Since we know this universal mind embodies what science today is calling the holographic principle, that everything is one and exists within itself. So if all things are one and this universal mind is within me, this infinite mind is also within everything around me. And whatever vibration, again going back to vibration, whatever it is that whatever level of consciousness I put myself on, that's going to determine what it is that I'm attracting into my life. And being one with the universal mind, the universe will move things and place me and other things, situations, circumstances, like just working like cogs, like gears. I gear myself in a specific tune, and I end up running into or matching with other like gears just as I go on with my life. And it's amazing. It's such an amazing thing. And this is spirituality. This is the power that we have as individuals, as creators, co-creators with the universal mind. And this is what new thought and higher consciousness is leading to teach and to bring to light the power of consciousness itself. And not only that, but the power of Christ consciousness, and what Jesus the Christ really came to teach, and how you and I have this power existing within us. We know it again as the God Force. We're using it in a certain language, modernizing the terms, modernizing the message. And yeah, and you know, back on the progress we've been making, that's a good handful of what we got from Trudeau, and The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard. We have to redo chapter 9. It was either 13 or 14, as well as 17, and finish off the rest. And Tonight has been a challenge getting through those recordings because there is a ton of background noise going on today. Just being Friday night early, Saturday midnight, and but the good news is that we're moving forward. And I was thinking about it. It's already been about 3 weeks. Close to 3 weeks. 3 weeks, close to a month since I started up again with New Thought. Doing all this again just not only does it make me happy, but I don't know what I'm trying to explain right now. I started this channel several years ago, and I guess I just wonder where I could have been now if I just kept going back then. But you know what? Us talking about everything happens for a reason, and we are exactly where we need to be. I wasn't ready for something like this then. I just turned 28 last month, and I started studying all this material at 18. It's already been a decade. Because as an advocate for a higher thought, we're here to change the world. As silly as that might sound to a lot of people, sometimes I think about the purity that we've had when we were younger, and how we grow up in this world that's so full of darkness and greed, selfishness, and how important it is for us to understand consciousness, to understand higher thought, to understand who it is that we are, to understand what thoughts are, to understand what feelings are, what happens when we think, what happens when we feel, whatever it is that we are vibrating, that there's a law of cause and effect, and that we put out a cause and we will reap the effects. Now, there are some that understand this, most do not. Because looking at the school systems and public schools and government and central banks and what the government's doing to our money supply and principle of economics and how things are all whacked out and how the U.S. is in debt trillions and trillions of dollars and the average American is in debt and the poor and middle class is just, there's a greater divide between the poor and middle class and the rich, because the rich, as we know, would print money, have money printed, then they would buy stocks, they'd buy businesses, and then they would buy their assets, and then their assets will build and then bring them more money. And whether they choose to pay off their debts back, then they do. Sometimes they don't. Learning about this fiat currency system that we have that happened in 1971, it's like, and just business is a very powerful thing, and not everybody does have your best interest. That is something that we all learn just as we live this life, and being that person to have the best interest for people, there's a lot of pain, a lot of sacrifice, and because what we want for ourselves, we want for all. And being a New Thought advocate, and even a follower of Christ, teaching Christ consciousness, because this law of attraction, this substance, this force, is by nature love. Just as the Christ taught, God is love, and in order to embody the highest form of divinity that the human being can embody, not only is it through the understanding of natural law, but it's also through the expression of love. And not everybody expresses or embodies that. And the power of attention, and how big corporations fight for your attention, because whatever it is that we're thinking about is what we become. So if they could fill your mind with their thoughts and their ideas and what it is that they want, then you'll become that. Now, there's a difference. When you want to be something, then you know you need to study it, learn it, and embody it. But then there are those other things. Say Coca-Cola, for example. We know Coke is not good for us, but yet there's all these commercials, all these things about Coca-Cola, and it gets into your mind. It becomes a subconscious way of thinking. And when you're thirsty, or when you're at the store, boom, there's a Coca-Cola. Because you've heard it so many times, and you've seen it so many times, and you start to think, I'm going to have this Coca-Cola. Now, that is the power of the mind and the power of suggestion. And that is why learning to guard our mind from negative things like that, then you're going to be better off. Now, whatever you do, you're going to do at your own peril. But there are a lot of things out there that's keeping you from vibrating at a very high degree. And Coca-Cola is one of those things that's going to slow down your vibrations, which will interfere with your focus, your way of thinking. It'll also interfere with how you feel. But there are a lot of things out there like that, isn't there? You know what? I've ranted enough. God is our strength and power. He makes our way perfect. Now, we're going through chapter 2. I know I mentioned that I was working on it and editing the audio right before I got on this camera to record our progress so far, and we're getting closer to being able to buy our website domain. We already have the domain, we've had it for a while, but actually connecting it to our new website. So we have to create a whole new website, and I'm currently door dashing. Remember, that's just a means to an end. I'm using that to get me to where I want to go. And the reason I DoorDash is because it's teaching me about stewardship. It's teaching me discipline when it comes to my finances. I'm responsible. It's on a 1099 form, so I'm responsible for my taxes. I'm responsible for my deductions. And with the prices of gas, especially nowadays, with all the inflation going on, again, all that comes from all the trillions of dollars that the Democratic Party has had printed and put out into the economy just these last 2 years alone. It's unbelievable, and gas prices are up to $5 per gallon, and it's only going to go up as long as they're doing what they're doing, and as long as people aren't striving to build their own service and stimulate the economy. And we need more entrepreneurs, we need more people of higher thought, we need more people that take care of themselves, we need more people that are actual leaders and that discipline themselves and make the sacrifices. And they're up at almost 1 o'clock in the morning just working on themselves and doing better and getting better every single day, and not being afraid to put themselves out there. That being said, let's go ahead and end this right here. It's already been 30 minutes. I will see you in the next several days, maybe even tomorrow, with more progress.